There are a lot of, I was going to say Knicks. I mean, yes, there are plenty of Knicks fans out there, especially if you're listening to this. But a lot of Giants fans out there where right now it's like 5:07 p.m. So
I actually watched the game. I watched
a great game. Yeah,
good game.
So 2 reactions that you can have for tomorrow morning, because we're not going to know the final result. First is like the Giants are absolutely going to beat Tom Brady and win another Super Bowl, and it's going to be amazing. Or the other one is I never really wanted to make the playoffs anyway. You know, I wanted a better draft pick, and I'm glad for the Washington football team to make the playoffs. So congrats to them. So, you know.
Well, I was about to say, isn't this like, it's kind of like the Eastern Conference in the NBA, where it's like you could be the first team, like the Wizards last year were the first team not to make the playoffs and they got the 10th pick in the draft. What if the Giants don't make it, do you know what pick they're going to get?
It
has to be about like 10th, right?
10th, yeah.
9th? Okay.
I haven't looked at the tankathon for the NFL in a bit.
Is there a tankathon?
Oh, yeah, sure. There's tankathon for all four sports, although the MLB one's a lot less important. Well, actually, I mean, MLB and NFL are a lot less important because there's no randomness to it because there's no draft lottery.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you know, we'll see what the next game is.
That's an interesting. You just inspired me. As always, I go off the cuff when the feeling hits. If anybody had asked either of us a week and a half ago, if we had the option this NBA season to change the lottery rules such that the team that finishes with the worst record, change the lottery rules to the NFL rules. How quick? I would have given up a toe, at least, and maybe a pinky finger. Because I mean, how much do you really? I'm just trying to figure out. No, pinky finger is pretty important. I would have given up
just keep in mind that in like 2 months you have to hold a live human baby. So make sure that you know which finger.
Yeah, but they have shit for that now. They have like this thing like the Roo. You put the kid in the thing and it vibrates around. And
yeah, but I mean, look, I'm not a parent, but the idea of holding your own child, I'm sure. I mean, like, yeah, you could put your baby.
Are you talking about like the satisfaction I get from it?
Yeah, I mean, then there's
I don't give a fuck about that.
Fair enough. That's a good
just put it out there. Whatever. You would have jumped at the chance, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What, to eliminate the draft lottery and just have, of course. I mean, well, wasn't that the whole reason that we were hoping for Zion? I mean, we knew the odds, but the idea of like, well, we're going to be bad, we might as well be the worst. So let's be the worst.
Best odds, the 45% chance.
And hey, RJ's great, but you know, it's in the time everyone knows it was Zion. It was Zion, and then it wasn't.
It is what it is. And that look, and we're going to talk about RJ because I think despite the shooting numbers, well, we're going to talk about RJ. Now, if someone gave you the same opportunity, what would your reaction? Would you be like, oh, hell no? Would your reaction be like, hold on, let me look at some schedules? What would your reaction be?
I would say like, you know what? I could take 1 year of just flat out mediocrity, getting someone like a Cade Cunningham, and then walking away. Because here's the other factor, right? And this is where I've kind of gone back and forth with the whole tanking philosophy. Because as you know, I've been a proponent of it before.
Wait, but in terms of if someone gave you the choice right now, I'm asking because do you think they're actually going to finish with the worst record right now?
No, I do not.
As we said, okay, so that's where
even before the season, I didn't think the Knicks would finish with the worst record.
Oh, see, I thought there was a like. That's what I was angling towards. Right. Like if you had asked me a week and a half ago, I might not have thought they were going to finish with the worst record, but I would have thought that the odds of them finishing with the worst record were better than the odds of them lucking into the first pick.
Oh, 100%.
Which is that's what I'm getting towards here.
It's easier to control your own destiny than taking a chance on it in terms of the lottery. But then if the lottery is not there, but then you have other teams competing. So again, like in real life terms, because that's all we have to operate. Because I was actually asked this, and you might've been part of the tweet too, but someone said, you know, like Knicks are 2-2. Should we be worried? And it's this idea of like, well, we just have so many games left that you do not have to be worried about anything. Things are going to shake out because the reality is also that, you know, if the Knicks want a player, if he's also within a reasonable range for them to trade up, they'll do it. That's not a problem. You know, they tried to trade up for Obi, and clearly that they didn't have to in the end. We also saw them in the offseason. They went after Gordon Hayward and Malik Beasley on long-term contracts. Like, I know I'm getting ahead of myself there too, but it's like, it's not this idea of the Knicks are only willing to commit to where they're situated and they don't want to give out lengthy contracts. No, that's not it. They just haven't had the opportunity to get those players for one reason or another. One reason being the Hornets made a Godfather offer to Gordon Hayward and he took it. The other being Malik Beasley was a restricted free agent, things like that. So, because I know that people are thinking about this and I'm thinking about it a little bit too. I mean, I'm focused on this season, of course, but you also have the thought of like, man, the Knicks could really use someone in the half court because as great as things are, the offense is suffering. If they had someone who could be more of a floor general, that would be fantastic. That sort of thing. And you know, like I see a lot of talk about trading Randall, and even I'm a little bit apprehensive about it. And I know you and Tom were talking about this too. And
touching on it, yeah. Just the idea of like, you could trade Randall, but look at how well he's playing. You don't have to make that type of move right now. And it is 6 games. I still struggle with trying to, sort through which percentages are meaningful, which maybe aren't. It's 6 games, tough. But it's a sixth of the way to the trade deadline.
That's the other thing. And also it's even closer because a month from right now is the first day where teams that sign free agents from other teams are eligible to trade their players. And that's important.
It's so interesting to me because it's so funny. I have stayed off Twitter for a little while now. As I hinted at the last time we recorded, I just don't have the time anymore. And you're on it more. And I'm sure there is a lot of dialogue happening about the periphery stuff, right? And it just strikes me that I wonder, are we I don't know, are we the only fan base in the NBA? But we have to be one of the few that other fan bases start out 3-3 after just absolutely sucking for as long as we have sucked in the way that we have sucked and with the magnitude of suckage that we have had. And if they started off like this, the questions would be like, okay, how real is this? Are we actually a 500 team? Are we like close to a 500 team? Or are we just a shitbag masquerading for a week and a half as a decent team? No. Not in New York. In New York, those questions are secondary. The first questions are like, oh my God, are we fucking everything up by whatever's going on right now? And then we'll worry about secondary, whether it's real or not. And like, my mind isn't there because I'm just so in the moment of like, holy crap, this team looks like it might not be the worst team in the league. And like, which is again why I kind of started where I started, because I think it's just interesting that, a week and a half ago, the primary concerns for me, at least, were like, oh God, what if we finish last or second to last or third to last and we end up with the 6th or 7th or 8th pick? And I'm sitting here and I'm deciding between, Zaire Williams and Jalen Johnson or something like making like 6 months from now, having the type of discussions on this podcast that I don't want to be having. Right. And now it's more just like, okay, is there actual real stuff going on here? And what can we take from it? And I'm happy about that. And it's just interesting to me that maybe not everybody is, because I don't know. That's just interesting to me.
Yeah. I'm similar in that, like I don't necessarily look at each game as, oh, this is going to kill the tank, or, oh, this is going to this loss is not going to help in terms of getting to the playoffs, even if you feel they're viable or not. It's a lot more loosey-goosey for me. And it's kind of been more enjoyable as a fan to just have a very laissez-faire, anything goes attitude, because I don't necessarily have to stress over it. Like my natural reaction to last night's game against the Pacers was cheering. And if that was my natural instinct, then that tells me that I clearly am rooting for this team to win games. And, I think the other important thing to remember, because yes, and I'm sure we'll get into this discussion ad nauseum and in more frequency as time goes on. But I kind of think back to the fact that just in terms of what the Jazz were able to accomplish and how a team that had Walt Perrin in the front office, that had Johnny Bryant on the coaching staff, they traded up and they got Donovan Mitchell 12th. And both
a decade after they traded up and got
Deron Williams. Right. And
30.
So it's that kind of thought process of you can you can also sell and not be sellers, if that makes sense. Like, if anything, last night's game said to me, you can actually pull this off without a player like Alec Burks. And that's no disrespect to Alec Burks.
Which is unbelievable. No, he's so important. I was texting someone last night. You could argue that other than Randall, he's been their most important player.
Exactly. And the fact that the Knicks have been, that they were able to win in Cleveland without Alec Burks, that they were able to win last night without Alec Burks, it goes to show that there's a resilience there. And it's inspiring. It's encouraging.
And you could argue that if they had Alec Burks against Toronto, listen, I don't think it's nuts. They were in that game until midway through the fourth quarter when they literally the entire starting lineup couldn't hit a shot. So just throwing that out there.
This is a theme too. We're seeing through these 6 games. I'm trying to think if there are any games where in the first half is just an absolute bloodbath.
No,
it really wasn't. They've hung close or they've been in the lead in the first half, which says to me, okay, second half, you just need a closer. You need that guy, whether it's RJ, next year or someone next to RJ who can help. And then you're in a lot better shape moving forward. So, it's pretty crazy to me how this team could have pretty much the worst 3-point shooting performance in the history of the NBA, arguably.
Not hyperbole.
And still find a way to keep things close until it just caught up with them.
And then you got a team, by the way, last night, or as we're recording this last night in the Pacers, who took 53s and they made 19 of them. Or sorry, was it 17 or 19? They made a goodly, it was either 17 or 19, one or the other. Either one is like an acceptable percentage considering the league average 3-point percentage is 34%. Also, best team in the post in the NBA by a comfortable margin. And they took the thing that they were best at and they threw it right back in their face and they said, no, you're not having this tonight. And it's just like, that's impressive on the road against a team that was feeling great about itself. They'd only lost 1 game to the Celtics, and that was a tight one that they gave away in the fourth quarter. So, the ways that the team is winning are impressive. And we're going to go through some categories of the early season so far, but before, and I'll turn it over to you before we get there. But the last thing I want to say is just, I hear everything you're saying, and I know you there's a lot going through your head. So I know what you're saying is not indicative of everything that you're thinking. It's just, this is a concern, and it is a concern of a lot of people. Wait, where are we going to get that? Where are we going to get that star? If we don't get the star in the draft, then we got to trade for the star. We got to sign the star. This, that, and the other thing. The Knicks are in a different category than every other team in the league, and arguably every other team in professional sports, aside from maybe the Jets, in that they are not only a laughing stock within their league, they are a laughing stock nationally. Did you watch Soul yet, Jeremy?
I did.
Great. My favorite movie of the year. Oh God, I forget his name. The co-writer and co-director of the film. I'm going to look it up right now because not Pete Docter.
Was the one who wrote the joke?
The one who wrote the joke. The one who wrote the joke. Yes. I'm looking it up right now because I apologize for forgetting his name, which is not the best way for me to try to convince him to come on this podcast, which is what I really want. Kemp Powers. Kemp Powers, if you're listening to this, you are officially invited on the Knicks Film School Podcast. You wrote and directed my favorite movie of the year. Anyway, there was a Knicks joke in there for a national movie, right? That is seen in millions of households on Disney Plus. And you know what? I bet most people, whether they are 4 or 40 years old, got the joke, because that's how big of a laughing stock the Knicks have been. And for where the franchise is at right now, all of those other concerns about the logistics of team building from day whatever we're at until day 1,000, those are secondary to just being functional and respectable and competent and all the words we throw around in this podcast. So again, all due respect to any of those concerns and all of the people who are like, it's going to be another situation where we lose out on Luka Doncic for Kevin Knox and this and that. Like, I don't want to hear it right now. I just don't want to hear it right now. I'm sorry, because that's not what this is about. So sorry. That was my last little piece I wanted to say. Say what you want, and then we'll get to our categories here.
Oh, I think that's fair. We're looking at a process here. You build step by step. And as you're saying, yes, the Knicks' reputation is lower than dirt in a lot of ways. We're talking about a team that has missed the playoffs 7 years in a row, and they're trying to build a foundation, and they're trying to build accountability. And look at how much we were clamoring for Emmanuel Quickley to come back. Quickley, who was drafted 25th overall. And that's a testament to the work that they're doing and how excited we are to see young talent thriving before our very eyes. And again, he's only played in 2 games, one that was shortened in Indiana, the other that was not as short in Indiana. But still, it's that breath of fresh air that drives us and that gets us excited for these games. And that's why I care more about the process than I do about the results. The Knicks could have lost that game against Indiana last night, and I would have probably been like, all right, that's unfortunate, but they hung close. Compared to the last game, they made the adjustments in the second half that they needed to. And even with Randall's shots not falling, he still is playing well. He's finding ways to do things properly. And yet they did win. And that still is a really rewarding feeling. And it feels like all of the hard work, all of the changes that are being made, they might seem incremental, but it's going to pay off down the line. And that's really exciting. And so that's why I can never begrudge fans for rooting for a team to win, even if you think that tanking is the right way. And sometimes I have felt that way. I still can't say to a fan, like, you shouldn't root for the Knicks to win, because what message is that sending? And how do I know that the Knicks winning or not winning a game is going to be the difference necessarily? So especially with these new odds, I mean,
with the lottery rules,
beforehand, it was maybe a different story, maybe, but now it doesn't matter. Again, the 7th overall team, the team with the 7th best odds, has moved up 2 out of the last 2 years with the new lottery. So again, let's focus on, if we want to talk about asset accumulation, let's talk about a player like how you can keep winning or keep staying in games without having Alec Burks. Or maybe it's the type of thing where you don't need someone else who's on the roster, because like if it were Julius Randle, you could figure out that means that Obi Toppin has taken a step forward enough to show that as good as Randle is, it's superfluous. But we're not there yet because Toppin's hurt and Randle's playing fantastically. So I'm excited. The process is everything to me, and it's starting to pay off. And you again, like,
are we allowed to use that word? We're not.
Sure. Yeah, might as well.
We've commandeered the process, and
we've adopted it. Yeah,
the process 2.0.
Yeah, but I go back to the Indiana game and the difference of what 2 weeks can be, and it's awesome to see that. It's really nice to see rewards pay off.
It is. Listen, the best franchises don't tank, and if you want to tell me, well, the Knicks aren't one of the best franchises, then it's a catch-22, right? I think I'm using that term correctly, because hopefully this is on the way to making us become a better franchise. And you can't become a great franchise until you become a not dumpster fire franchise. The other advantage that they have, and we have talked about it many times, is that they are, well, the advantage that they have had but not used, they're a coastal city, one of the 4 or 5 destinations in the sport, and they have not been able to take advantage of that for some time. So becoming better, whereas it might theoretically shut out another team playing in, Kalamazoo from their one chance at a superstar. That is not the case here. So listen, that's enough on tanking.